Good evening, everyone. Welcome to IDAGIO Live, where classical music indeed happens. Tonight is yes, it's Monday, therefore don't be confused. It's not Tuesday or Thursday, and yes, I am Thomas Hampson. It's Monday. This is a special IDAGIO Live in cooperation with a wonderful new program in the worldwide support of young artists called Opera for Peace. And I am a mentor and sponsor of this wonderful program, but we have also different kinds of educational programs across the world that we can do. And tonight was arranged between IDAGIO Live and Opera for Peace, which is really quite exciting. And I have invited three of my wonderful younger colleagues whom I know because of the Lied Akademie Heidelberg, as well as the Schubert Woche in Berlin. And we've been working together for a couple of years, off and on. And it's my pleasure to invite all of them to sing Mahler. And why is it Monday and why are we today? Because May 18 is Mahler 18. It is the 109th anniversary of Gustav Mahler's death, which is May 18. His birthday is coming up in 2 months on July 7. So those two dates always somehow and encourage my younger colleagues in the next generation to embrace the wonderful world of Gustav Mahler and his Lieder. We have with us Marie Seidler, whom I probably have known the longest. We have Susan Sarabi. I won't say where you're from in Germany, it doesn't matter, Europeans and German. And we have Liviu Hollander, well, Germany, Austria. Livio and I have just started working together, which is very exciting. It is a thrill on IDAGIO Live for me to have some kind of platform to introduce you to the next generation you'll be buying tickets for and hearing recitals and concerts. It's extraordinarily important. It's a great honor for me to do that, and it's a great pleasure, and it's a lot of work, but that's fine. That's what we're here for. So the three of you have sung Mahler songs before, a lot, Marie?
I was lucky enough to sing a few Knabenwunderhorn Lieder with orchestra. It was a wonderful experience in Nancy, and also the Rückert Lieder with a small chamber orchestra, which was very beautiful as well. So yeah, I kind of got in touch with him and fell in love with his Lieder.
But it doesn't sound like you've done them with piano very much.
Not the piano versions, but of course rehearsed with piano.
Yes, of course.
But then in the wider sense, in order to be able to sing it with orchestra, the concentration was rather on the orchestra versions than the piano.
Yeah. And Susan, have you been singing that? You've been singing more with piano, haven't you, over the years?
Yeah, that's right.
And many songs?
Which songs?
Many of his songs?
Yeah. Also, as Marie, a lot of Knabenwunderhorn songs, and also the Rückert songs. And I would say it's always a pleasure to sing Mahler. Yeah.
Why do you say that?
I mean, well, to me, okay, songs, especially his songs are, of course, his symphonies are all also very, very beautiful, but especially the songs to me mean a lot because to me, he's one of the best translators of human feelings. He's able to put those feelings into music. And that's why I'm always, I'm feeling always touched immediately while hearing his music. And I think it's very, very interesting because you don't have to speak the German language to understand what he wants to say. For example, in the irdische Leben, this, you feel this urgency, you feel this danger while hearing his music. And it's something really special to me. Yeah.
Livio.
Well, I love Mahler's songs. Coming more from, I've done more opera in the past years, but what I love about Mahler's songs, and that was kind of my entry ticket to Mahler, is that they're kind of like miniature operas. This theatrical aspect of the of the songs really fascinated me, whether it's the soldier songs or the more humorous songs. I think they're incredibly theatrical, and Mahler manages to use so many colors. And I did some of the Wunderhorn, both with piano and orchestra, with the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra a year ago. And yeah, hope to go in more depth into Mahler's work together.
Wonderful. Well, we don't have a whole bunch of time this evening, so I want to get right to the songs. What I've asked my colleagues to do, because the Zoom platform is a fantastic digital communication platform, but we're relaying this to YouTube Live. So perhaps pre-recorded will protect a little bit more of the musical quality. This is a little bit of an experiment on my part. This will be the first time I've ever done this kind of work. I have done work obviously online, and a lot of my classes have been put online, but we're using extremely high grade equipment where the latency and lag in the broadband interconnect is very minimal. So you have a very real it's a very specialized world. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm just prefacing you, we're going to have a good experiment here. They've all pre-recorded their things. We're going to listen to it and then talk about it. And as we go, I hope I can offer some more layers to where his songs potentially come from, and certainly his intent in structuring. So what we have is one of the early songs, one of the early Burschiko's march songs called Aus. And then we have one of the more mature, in fact, the first of the songs that he called of the Humoresken, that he then had piano and then orchestrated, known as the orchestrated Des Knaben Wunderhorn songs, der Schildwache Nachtlied. And because all of that is going to be very intense, we want to leave you with the ability to hum when you're driving away or when you're making dinner after this session. So we'll have the beautiful Rheinlegendchen at the end. So the first up is Susan Sarabi, and I'm now going to do screen share and go to my there he is, pre-programmed, ready to go. And here is Aus von Gustav Mahler. So hang on, no. Not yet, Mr. Hollander. All right. So first of all, this is really bizarre. Well, it's exciting, and we're going to be doing more. I'm going to be doing more of this. We're going to be doing more of this. We need to get used to it. Pretty good recording quality. By the way, thank you, Hochschule München, for allowing you to play on their piano and in their hall. I think I know this hall. That's what. And what is your pianist's name?
Viktor Jugovic.
Ah, wonderful. Good. Well
Yeah.
done, Victor. Okay. We don't have a lot of time, and this isn't a usual. I mean, you guys are very much used to me, really getting in and working on all of you and how the voice works and the body works. We're not obviously going to be able to get into that. However, just my first reaction, my first thing for the song, it just sounds a tick too fast.
Too fast. Okay.
And the reason I say that, and it's not about us being a stickler for tempo, but it's a march song. Heute marschieren wir, juche, juche im grünen Mai. Morgen marschieren wir, juche im grünen. And what you did very well, even though I miss a little bit of the march. Now, what is interesting is I'm not sure how many times I've heard a girl sing this song, which is a wonderful twist of the ballad. And ballad narration is not gender specific. It's wonderful that you sing this. But clearly when I sing it and I sing the girl, I'm telling the girl's part of it. When you're singing it, you're telling the guy's part of it. So I think you can actually, if you slow it down and make it the march, we get a little bit more of the young sarcasm that Mahler is giving us. Mahler, I love his songs so much. In the early songs, he was a genius at being kind of the uncle that observed all the natural instincts of young people that are going to lead to disaster. And one of the first disasters is missing the love that they probably should have had in the first place. The second disaster is boys always wanted to go off to war. And the third disaster is simply not embracing or being deserted, and we'll get into that. So my suggestion would firstly be bring it back a little bit, and also on top of that, you'll be able to sing everything. Right now, you're kind of hopping from phrase to phrase, and the things that connect are getting too short. Heute marschieren wir, juche, juche, im grünen Mai, da 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 da. You know what I mean? And the thing that is very similar, it seems to me, with Mahler and Schubert is that, and what you said in your preamble was so right on, that he finds this language and character of the personality in the musical line. And I think that is the first priority. So having these two different musical agogics, one clearly of the boy and the other one clearly of the girl, the one leaving, the one left behind, the one forsaking and thinking, oh, well, I'll pick up on the love some other time. The other one saying, oh my God. And the original poem is even more plaintive than this, wie fad wird's mir hier im Städtlein, ich bleib hier allein und du gehst einmal, was soll das, ne? And I think you can go farther with those two poles, and I think you'll have an easier time doing it if you just settle the tempo and say that sounds to me too musical, if you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, the idea was,
and especially sing it. Go ahead.
I think the idea was a bit, the boy wants to leave as fast as possible. Because to me, he's like a gigolo. It's not the first time he's telling the girls, our love is not over, honey. No, but army is calling, I have to go. And then she's like, in an exaggerated way, so what, no, you can't leave me, no. And then he's like, oh, I have to go. So that's why this youth and because there are the notes, keckes Marschtempo. And I thought this keck means like, you totally,
Keck, ja, wir verstehen schon auf Deutsch, was Keck heißt. Keck heißt auf Englisch impudent, smartass, frech, and edgy, right? And I think that I love, you're absolutely right what you've described, and it's very interesting how you described it. You see him as das verlassene Mägdlein, and I hear it as this young male drive to get in the fight and defend and prove his manhood.
Okay.
and she's simply collateral damage.
Okay.
Right? And it's very interesting to hear you say this, and there's not a right and wrong.
Mm.
What we both identified are two spheres of reality that don't and the sarcasm that I think Mahler offers happens in the last verse, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll be back. Unser Liebe ist noch nicht aus. Unser Liebe ist noch nicht aus. And that's certainly sung over his shoulder as he's riding off, right?
Totally.
And you're sitting here saying, yeah, but so I think we're somewhat on the same path. And I don't really. It's not about the two different. The leaving and the forsaken is clear. It's interesting. It's interesting to read on that. But I think it's more about the march rhythm and the exaggerated rhythmic structure of it, especially because of the same musical elements sort of turned inside out when she sings and he sings. It's not new music, it's the same music. Right? So I think the rhythmic juxtaposition is more important, and I just felt that this little bit too fast a tempo. We don't hear the girl's voice as a variation on the rhythmic structure of a march song and a Soldatenlied. That's my feeling about it. What else do you want to say about it? It's a
About
wonderful song. It's a wonderful song.
To me, it was really interesting because I've read the original poem in the Knaben Wunderhorn. It's called Abschied für immer. And the way Mahler took this poem, this original poem, and edited it, he made it a bit shorter. And the way he shows us the real meaning or the very message of this poem, with the way he puts those both characters into music. And I think it's really
what he does, if I may, and maybe I think you agree with me, what he takes out, what he doesn't put to music from the original poem, and I want to speak to that in a minute, is superfluous. We don't need those extra sentences of lament about her when she says, you know, wie wird mir gehen in dem Städtlein, wenn du weg bist. You know, we don't. The other plenty. We don't. He synthesizes down to the essence of what they're both trying to say, and that's another reason why I feel like the song is driven from this young male soldiery kind of go off and fight and prove manhood at all costs, and all costs is always love, especially young love.
I don't think he wants to go to the war or this drives, but he wants to, I don't know how to say, well, he's to me a gigolo. He wants to drive in another city, in a different city, different lovers. So I think that's his motivation to me. Yeah.
I'm not, well, now you've pushed me long enough that we have to disagree then, because I think, you know, heute marschieren wir Juche im Grünen. Ja, morgen marschieren wir Juche im Grünen Mai. Aus dem Tor hinaus aus dem Tor. I think that there's, and from where these poems come, and that's one I want to address. When we talk about Mahler, especially in Das Knaben Wunderhorn, manipulating text, and I'm purposely calling it manipulating text and not rewriting or taking this or that out of the poem. We have to really never forget, and I'm saying this for our public too. There's a lot of well-meaning, but I think misguided criticism to Mahler that he had no respect for his textual sources because he would change sentences or change words. And Mahler himself said that with the Das Knaben Wunderhorn poetry, he felt very much like a sculptor chiseling away at a piece of granite to have something come into relief. And all of these poems that Clemens Brentano and Achim von Arnim published in 1806, 1808, and then 1818 are essentially the gatherings of many, many different sources. And I have it somewhere in my library here and go back, and some of the books about Mahler will give you that. But yes, there is the original poem, but the original poem from the Des Knaben Wunderhorn could very well have 3, 10, 20 different vocal
Versions,
sources, pieces or parts of other folk tales that became part of that, and the synthesis of it. So their job was to synthesize into a poetic form, ergo already turning folk poetry into a kind of an art poetry, these original sources. And the whole thrust was dedicated to Herder. Well, it was at his behest. It was dedicated to Goethe. And the point was language. The point was identifying a race or a culture by the common use of their language. And that would be the folk. And that's where we get the idea of folk poetry. It identifies a folk. And that's where these poems are coming. I think never forget that as you're working on the poems, and never be any way concerned that what Mahler gave us as songs in these kind of Wunderhorns are sometimes with pretty serious textual modulations from the original Des Knaben Wunderhorn. He does that exactly for the first thing you said about the song, that he creates in music such an apparent and obvious psychology. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. Well, this is really awful. Normally in Heidelberg, this would just be the beginning of what would be 40 minutes of fantastic exploration. We're going to move from Aus, which is a young Soldatenlied, and we're going to go to the Schildwacher Nachlied, which is written probably 6 or 7 years later. It is also the first of the so-called mature Des Knaben Wunderhorn songs. He wrote 25 songs on the textual source Des Knaben Wunderhorn. He set 14 or 15 of them, depending on how you want to look at it, to orchestration. All of the songs originated as piano versions and are considered by Gustav Mahler as legitimate piano songs and piano versions. And there was even quite some confusion for 60 years or 50 years, 60 years, until it was determined, thank you very much, Henri de Lagrange, the great Mahler scholar, now dead. And I was part of that group that, when we were doing the critical edition, that identified, because there were the Fünf Humoresken he referred to as 10 new songs when he sent it to Schott. Can you imagine? Anyway, what happened? Where are the 5 lost songs? And it turns out he meant the 5 piano songs and the 5 orchestrated songs. And it's a whole kind of detective story on its own, and part of it's in some letters that are in my drawer right behind me. It's really quite fun. Anyway, piano orchestra score. Let's have a listen to. Now, Livio and I talked about this. This is a very long song. It has 3 verses and then an epilogue. What we might do is set it up in the first 2 verses, then skip to the end. Otherwise, we're just going to run out of time. Is it okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Here we go. I'll let you sing it all.
Ich kann und mag nicht freiwillig sein, wenn alle Leute schlafen, so muss ich wachen, ja wachen. Muss traurig sein. frisches Herz. Stehst du im Feld zur
So, Livio, let me go. Could you all hear that? Were you watching and hearing that? Ah, wunderbar.
Yeah.
Okay, just to be very quick, we're going to go back to screen sharing and just listen to the end of it, because I wasn't completely convinced. Where are we? Here we go. So share, and we're just going to go to the end of the song because I want you to be able to finish it. All right? No.
Feld zur Wir sang es hier, wir sang zur Stund. Vor ihrer Feldwacht sang es
Great. All right, well done. Big song. So, in all fairness, Livio and I have had the least amount of time with one another. And the bad news is I'm coming to Vienna quite soon, and we're going to have a good big hour together and develop some good vocal language between us. This is a huge song, and it's rather remarkable that when you look at his young songs and then not so young songs, and then there's no songs, and then all of a sudden 1892 this starts, and the Film von Mareskin, Schildwache Nachtlied, Wer hat das Lied erdacht, Trost im Unglück, Das himmlische Leben, which shows up 4 years later in the Fourth Symphony, right? And there's Verlorene Mühe is the second one, right? And these are just another world. Again, because these were orchestrated, I think it's not illegitimate to look at the orchestra indications of some of the things that he had, and he did have some metronome markings later in life that he brought into it, and they're very subtle. But if I remember correctly, the bum ich kann Hand und mag is 69, and then it settles in bram 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 body is 64 66. The point of that is, and your instinct was to already sing a little bit slower than your pianist, and I realize you guys are throwing this together. So if I had you two together, I would want to settle you down like we talked with Susan, and because you have to, the march quality or the soldier quality of the song has to be a self-understood echo of what his dilemma is and his hallucination.
Mhm.
And it's a wonderful ballad. It's a straight out of Karl Löwe ballad times. And I think, because I've heard you sing this before when you came to Paris and we saw each other briefly, and your instincts there were right.
Mhm.
This feels a little bit like you were pumping out a song for me on tape so we could work on it, and that's good too. You have I applaud very much your understanding of the two characters. Your messa di voce at the wunderbar, right? You are allowed to exploit more of the resonance of the voix mixte in lieder singing. You have a very strong voice, and I'm glad we start working together as soon as possible, because I want to empower you with that option. You can choose aesthetically what you want to do, but using the, and I don't mean falset, and unfortunately I think the Mitternacht is falset. It would be
Mhm.
nice if it were voix mixte. Right?
Mhm.
You want to have it. It has to be
This
bass.
balance still.
Has to
Mhm.
be yeah. And so we would work on some things vocally because I want to help you have more of what you have, which is prodigious and wonderful vocally, more at your fingertips because you have a very lively imagination. How do you see this song? How have you felt working and working on it? Does it make sense what I'm saying to you?
Yes, it does, and I think it would help to bring out these kind of three parts of the song. There's obviously the soldier, the Schildwache, the night watch, who kind of has this military obedience that he has to follow, and obligation. Um, and then there is the girl who's speaking to the Knabe, telling him that she will wait for him in
Who
the
is this
road.
girl? Who is this girl?
Well, I think this girl is part of his dream, his maybe insomnia hallucination that he has, who's telling him that she's waiting for him in some rose garden. Maybe it's him just dreaming off his night watch in a kind of insomnia way, but then he's always pulled into his obligation as the soldier, and also has this military pride, which was in the part we didn't hear,
Okay,
where it's like er ist ein König, er ist ein Kaiser, and then the
right.
very end, which is like a kind of nearly, which is also difficult to transport that vocally, which is like nearly, I feel like a third party looking on him. I feel like the last strophe is not the girl; it's
No.
really someone maybe possibly looking at his death, just very clinically observing what happened in a way.
A wonderful description, wonderful breakdown of the parts, and only because we have to work so fast, I apologize, and we'll work on the song in some detail. Um, Absolutely right. The three voices or the three parts. The the boy the boy doesn't want to be where he is. Ergo, fate, society, duty has put him in this position. I agree with you that it's a hallucination of where he would like to be. And in this kind of wonderful folk poetry in Germany, anytime you're talking about roses and rosy lips, you're not very far from sexual innuendo. So this is a relationship that he knows very well, right? But it's the most important part is that the boy almost, well, all I would say, actually, all of Mahler's soldier songs are about outsiders. They are outside of where they want to be. They are outside or protesting what in their physical duties, what they actually would rather be doing. If you look at Zu Strasbourg auf der Chance, right? The same thing. They are even the aus, you could argue that he's going outside. He's taking himself out of the equation. But in the Schildwache Nachtlied and Tambourgesell and Verfolgt in dem Turm, Revelge, these are seriously ostracized outside perspectives with that dream quality. In terms of the tempo, I could tell your instinct. Yes, I would go back and have your piano settle a bit down. What is important, I think, is to find in all of his songs, how can I say it, a tempo that not just a common tempo, but a tempo that belies the heartbeat of the person, of the psychology. I think, like you said, Susan, earlier, I think all of his songs, yes, they're like mini cosmos. They're like little operas. They're maybe you said it as well. I mean, we all know that. You know, there's some existential core to the song that the song itself is showing the other side of it as you're singing it. This is ballad singing pure. It is the heartbeat of opera literature. It's exactly what young people should be singing. It's what we should all sing through our whole careers. There's no difference between this and operatic work other than You're the Only One, and it's in a contained situation. You can, and we need to work on it. I need to show you some paths. You have more gradation of vocal ability that you can trust, that will give you the psychology that you believe in the moment. You need to sing it a couple times and have he say, yes, go there, do that. You need to trust that's how you can sing it. Be careful that in singing, and we're going to, singing as much as it has to do with articulation and understandability, words, text, singing is all about resonance. So anything we do here that takes away from who's up here, ha ha ha, is in our way. And that's why I like this feeling of verticality, that I know these girls they're going to start smiling because they've been down my road. Anything that takes your mouth like this all of a sudden, especially in the middle voice, you know, ich kann und mag nicht wirklich sagen, that's your worst enemy. Sein, right? Well, look at it. It's a very big song, and it's a
big song. Yeah.
It's a wonderful
song. Has a lot
song.
of challenges. But
how was it when you were working with your pianist? Were you probably telling him a couple of times, settle down?
We were kind of trying to, and it's not so easy because I feel like the tempo also in the first has to somewhat have a relation to the girl tempo.
This is exactly right.
If it's too slow, then it says etwas langsamer, then the girl will get kind of schleppend in a way. So
you know, it's so exactly, and it's in musical elements that you know as a musician. You're a wonderful musician. It's the 2 and the 3. That the boy is in the yappa ta 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 ta, and she is bum 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 ta 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 ba 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 dee da 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 da. Da, 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 da. And he writes flüchtig on that. He didn't want those
the trio.
They should be like fireflies, you know. Yeah, he said, "Stehst du im Felsohr," and you have to sing it as if you're hearing it.
As if you were imagining this garden.
Exactly. Otherwise, it becomes, and he wakes himself up. Nein, zum grünen Klee, da gehe ich nicht. Ich muss hier bleiben. Ja. Und der Arschloch, der da uns alle in den Krieg immer führt, der ist ein Kaiser, sein
König.
Der König, ja, der Verrückte. Wir sind alle Victime von dieser Leute. Bah! Wer sang es hier? And you know what, guys? Another vehicle of this kind of poetry, the Knaben Wunderhorn made it through the Zensuren by a nick of the eyelash, because somebody got tired of looking at all this stuff and said, it's kids' poetry, what difference does it make? But in fact, a lot of these songs, even that Mahler shows, have a seditious quality to them. They have a resentment that we are all in society called in the name of honor, state, mother, God, to do ridiculous things that are against nature. And I think that's not bad to have in the background. Anything quickly before we go on to Rheinlegendchen?
No, I absolutely.
He said we had 40 minutes, but he's wrong. We have a little bit more. We just got another 10 minutes. Fantastic. Yes.
No, I agree. And I find this kind of schizophrenic juxtaposition very, very interesting. And I feel that with this also voix mix that I'm exploring on, and I think we can go a long way on that. It will bring about these qualities even more, and I'm looking forward to that.
It's not two different voices; it's just the same.
No, the same world, the same two worlds of the same universe or something.
I prefer technically to think of the voice as a heavier and lighter adjustment. Lighter and heavier adjustment. A little bit like Mahler with his songs, he wanted lower and higher transpositions. To talk about the original key in Mahler is a little bit pedantic.
Tricky.
Anyway, apropos original key, let's go to A major Rheinlegendchen.
Pass on.
Okay? You guys, I'm making you victims of this class because we should be able to an hour on each song, and we will, but maybe not now. We're going to go to screen share again, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to go to our player, and we're going to pull up Marie Seidler and Tony Ming, who is also from the Lied Academy, Heidelberg, wonderful pianist, and Rheinlegendchen. Wonderful. Great, great, great. Okay, we got 10 minutes. So I'm not going to bitch about the tempo. You know, this is a funny song, a funny song. There's a lot about that goes against what we think is it's actually a very political song, which didn't particularly interest Mahler for one thing, for unusually. And Natalie Bauer-Lechner tells us that for some reason he had this tune in his head and he found the poem that worked and matched it. Not that he was looking at it, just it kind of went the other way, which tells us that this, which we would call obviously in musical language the Ländler or the Waltz, whatever, that the melodic agogic is the transporting emphasis or middle of this song, far more than anything to do with the text. The text is somewhat ununderstandable, and if you take it away from the music and you see the original printed poem, you realize there's a whole more darker story about the king robbing of the common folk their stuff and it turning up and sort of this perpetual cycle of who produces, who gets it, who gleans it, who gets it back, and who produces it again, that kind of thing. Also, very interesting. I didn't know this until recently, that one of the original versions of the poem that the boys put together was actually an oral, probably misunderstanding, because it says, "Bald gras ich am Acker, bald gras ich am Rhein, R-A-I-N." Das ist ja Wahnsinn, ne? Und that turned into Neckar and Lecker and Acker and Rhine, as in the Great Rhine. You know, there's a whole nother story. Forget about all of it. It's a beautiful song. The more you smile when you sing it and enjoy this wonderful Märchen and love Mahler's music, the more everybody else just goes, oh, and the tempo is just all about that. One anomaly you should pay attention to, which I'm sure you've already paid attention to, but I'll bring it out. This is one of the songs that drove me to be part of the critical edition family, because in the old piano score of 1907, where they chiseled all the notes, there's so much information in this song that is so contradictory. And one of them right at the beginning when you first start to sing, is it a ritardando or is it a tempo? And is it start on the downbeat or is it the pickup? And guess what? In the piano version, it's a pickup. And with the orchestra, it's a rit because you're joining the orchestra. Mahler was the most practical musician on the face of the planet. With orchestra. Orchestra goes together, you're all happy, right? Piano. So trust that with a piano, move it right into your melody. Never lose the thread of the melody in this song, ever. And hand it off to him. Every pianist loves to play the middle bit, you know. I always feel like that second phrase in what's in the violas in the orchestra is kind of sex in the sunshine. You know, it's a wonderful relationship. You love the song. What do you think about it? What do you think?
Yes, I love the song, but it took some time actually, because other songs like Wo die schönen Trompetenblasen, they have this particular depth drama. And then it took some time for me to understand the irony and the ambiguity, the double meaning, and this wonderful sense of humor, and just to enjoy it. And as you said, it's very difficult not to have a puzzle of different agogic pieces.
Good for you, yeah.
You know, because it's one melody, as you said, and to have this Ländler feeling. And although the piano itself is an aria itself, it doesn't necessarily need the singer. And to put that together as pianist and singer was a task. And I think with Tony it was we are speaking the same language, so we had a lot of fun to record it.
Yeah, and I don't know, where a beautiful atmosphere where you are, and wonderful. When you do it again, or when you and Tony might be watching, I would, if we were working in a class, I would just say, guys, do it again. Don't lose the thread.
Exactly.
I know you, and I know you love to think about things, and so you think too many about things, and we all do. You can't. You have to let the irony. It's only ironical if you don't tell the story. Yeah. It has to just kind of sit out there, and everybody. But the king, why? And at the end of the day, no matter what happens in the storyline, you know, mein Schätzlein tick springen Berg auf und Berg ein. Du kommst wieder, kannst grasen am Neckar, kannst grasen am Rhein, solange du wirst mit einem Goldringelein. You know, it's a happy ending. Whatever you've been through, it's going to be okay. You know, so just keep that line going, and never sacrifice your beautiful voice because of some goddamn word. Sorry to swear, ladies and gentlemen, but you know, it's like, you know, it's too much text. You know, the text informs the melodic agogic, and the text is clear. If you understand the text, everybody else will understand the text. That's the main point, and it's your language anywhere. So don't feel like you have to chase any ulterior subterraneans in this song, and just let your voice sail on the top of that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Bist du einverstanden? This is fantastic. They're waving all sorts of flags at me that we're done. You guys have been wonderful victims. The next time we only do 2 people, so you have more time to talk. I'm sure that anybody watching feels like I've rolled over the top of you, but I've just been trying to keep it going. So we had a couple of moments of Mahler. Ladies and gentlemen, Mahler may have been, he was a wonderful psychologist. He was the musician's best friend, and he did not want to die. He had a tremendous sense of humor. He understood life like few prophets or mystics can. And whatever his obsessions were with the process of life that goes into another reality we call death, he had no wish to die. He was cut short. He left us too soon. We can only imagine what life would have been like had he lived another 20 years. But thank God he lived those 50 years, so we have these kinds of songs. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Opera for Peace. Opera for Peace, right? Did I say Opera for Life earlier? Well, peace, life. You know, Opera for Peace. Anyway, thank you, IDAGIO. Well, classical music happens. Join us again. Bye, guys. Thank you very much. Leave you, Suzanne,
Bye.
Maria.
Thank you.
Bravi.
Bye.